Johnny Cash. Hello, America. I feel confident in saying, well, except for two states, I've been everywhere. So, it's good to see y'all. Thank you very much for, let's see, it was 42 states that showed up, put fuel, kept me fed, gave me a place to sleep, kept Jumbo in the air. 42 of y'all. And the only reason there wasn't more is because I actually found some fuel in a couple. But we had a few locations that we almost didn't find fuel, and it was getting close. Fortunately, I had Wilson with me, which is my gas can, and I got a courtesy car, and I went into town. We refueled the plane, and we were usually up within an hour, except for Montana. I love Montana. And Bill told me to get my butt in the air. So I got back on schedule, and we had a lot of fun with that. But with that, I'm going to bring Bill up here in a minute. But let me backtrack to where this all started, which was approximately 4.5 years ago. I had gotten diagnosed with kidney cancer, and at the time, I thought, my life is over. This is done. So I quit my job. I retired, and I decided, you know what? I am going to do what I always wanted to do, which was build my own airplane and fly to lower 48 states. So I retired. I did my due diligence. I bought a Zenith, and I went to commence to building. I went full time on it. And those of us, I know I'm not alone, but those of us who have had cancer or are dealing with cancer, you know that never leaves your mind. It is 24/7 on your mind. So with the project of building a plane, I can honestly tell you, the entire time I was building on that plane, I never once thought about my cancer. So my whole body, my mind was able to cope with this. So I literally would work from sunrise to sunset. And my wife at the time, who's still with me, she would video out there, but she knew I needed it. So we just kept trudging along, and 424 days later, Jumbo was born. So, yeah. So with that, with Jumbo in the air, unfortunately, Jumbo had to have a heart surgery and engine replacement. She didn't like the first heart, but she does love her transplant, the Viking 130. So we've been flying and sharing our joy of flying with as many people as we could and can. And prior to coming here, I had 99 people that I've given test flights to. I love to share the pleasure of this flight. And I saved my 100th flight for my older sister right there. So she got to be my 100th passenger, and then you would think after flying the lower 48 states that I would be like, I am done. I want to take some breaks. But I landed over in Neenah, and I just kept flying. So I gave more people rides and just continued on until Oshkosh here, where I met up with 6 other Zeniths coming in, and I joined up with them, so we became the Magnificent Seven. And we flew into Oshkosh all together at a time, and it was a wonderful entry, non-event. So now Jumbo's parked. She's on the ground for 7 days. She's looking to get back in the air. So I know y'all want to hear about the 48 states and what it takes to do it. It's a lot more than you think. So let me bring Bill up here, and we'll tag team this, and yeah, we'll let you kind of get a sense of what actually happened, because it wasn't all good.
It was a monster endeavor, let me tell you. When I came back from Sun and Fun in April, I stopped and stayed with Dave and Laura. And Dave goes, let's do the lower 48. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm in, let's go. And then we got to planning it, and I was looking at the timeline of flying it. And then a week at Oshkosh, I'm like, dude, I can't take that much time off of work, but I'll be your ground support. Yeah, I didn't know what I was buying into at that particular time.
Oh, we did.
So yeah, I'd get up 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd plan out his day. And I mean, I was sending him flight plans, weather briefings, the whole 9 yards. I was pilot overloading him is what I was doing. You know, and he'd take off and he'd say, "Where am I going?" And I'm like, "Seriously, dude? I just spent 3 hours planning this." You know, but that was my fault. You know, we didn't communicate. He's not, you know, he's like, "Just give me what I need now." You know, and yeah, there was some frustration that boiled in that, but we learned to communicate with each other. And you know, I'm looking forward, going, okay, you're going to be in Phoenix at this time. What do we have available to us in Phoenix? And I'd call ahead and get that set up. What was really cool is as we started from the West Coast moving to the East, there's a lot less unleaded fuel available at airports. So I'm calling, looking, hey, can anybody help us? Can anybody help us? By the time Dave hit North Florida and started up the East Coast, I had people calling me saying, hey, if he comes here, I got 50 gallons of gas for him. If he lands here, I can fill him up. I can put him up for the night. I can do this, I can do that. That made flight planning the whole trip a lot easier. And then halfway through, we're in Missouri with additional Zenith builders, David and Judy Ogg. And I'm like, Dave, you need a down day. We're gonna park you for a day, just take it easy. David and Judy needed their wings put on, yeah. David and Judy needed their wings put on. They could have used Dave's expertise. So that was the game plan. What were we, 2 hours into the game plan, and there's storms moving into Florida. Dave, you gotta go, and you gotta go now, and you gotta make it to North Florida. You know, that's a lot of the way the trip worked. You know, we would plan it as best as we could plan it, and then Mother Nature would throw us a curveball, and he had to go get in that airplane, struggle through the weather. So, yeah, it was a lot of work on the ground, but he was the butt in the seat making it happen. So, congratulations, buddy.
Yeah, Bill was gentle on describing that we didn't get along on that. there were some harsh words thrown around. Yeah, and he had sent me. Okay, we're just gonna give you a little maybe TMI or whatever. But he had sent me a long letter, and it kind of went along and was like, dude, you ain't Elvis. You need to get to the next location. And there were some explicatives thrown in there, and yeah, we almost ended his flight right there. But we worked through it. We realized that we were all on a learning curve, and it was a lot of stress. It really was a lot of stress. When this all transpired, when I first built my plane, Brian did a video for it. And in there, I told him I wanted to build a plane and fly to lower 48 states. That was 3.5 years ago or so. And then COVID hit, and just couldn't get going. So this year, it was like, okay, we're gonna go, and then fuel hit, twice the price. It was like, it cost us half as much last year. But I was like, I'm going. With or without your help, I'm going. Because I don't know, I mean, it's still somewhat in my head. I don't know if I'm gonna be here next year. I don't know if my friends are gonna be here next year. And I want to enjoy this. I really do enjoy aviation a lot. And I want to share it with as many people as I can and as many friends as I could. So it was going to happen this year regardless, one way or another. So with that said, it started getting planned. I started plotting courses. And of course, online, all the fuel places that said they had fuel don't. So that hurt us. And then when I took off, I took off on a Friday, I believe. It was a Friday, and I was only supposed to go to El Paso. Only. It's 6-7 hours to get to El Paso. But I made it to El Paso, and I was supposed to actually stop there, and then the next day was actually supposed to be the start. But I got there, I didn't like the airport, and I called up Bill, and said, hey Bill, can I go to the next stop? I don't want to be here. And I've already flown 6-something hours. It's like, I'll just fly a couple more hours. Right? So he said, yeah, Joe's ready for you. Go into New Mexico. So I headed up into New Mexico, and wonderful people gave me a night on the restaurant, nice place to sleep, wonderful folks. So we did that, and the trip just kept going right after that, day after day, meeting people, wonderful people. But yeah, it was a brief conversations, really. Sometimes it was 15 minutes or less on the ground. And I kind of felt rude about that, but people kept going, well, you're on a mission, dude, get back in here. So they were forced me back in here, sometimes sooner than I wanted to get back in here. But it was all good on that. So going up the West Coast, the mountains, I've never done mountain flying, so this was an experience. I did have oxygen on board, which I went through 3 bottles of it on this trip, because I prefer flying high versus going through passes. And I went around on the windward side because I'd heard all these nightmare stories about getting caught in rotors and downdrafts and all that sort of stuff. So I got as high as I could on the windward side, and it was really a non-event. Although my eyes got really tired really fast because I was always looking for a place to land. And some of that area, there just isn't a place to land for a long time. Those trees, there are a lot of trees out there. So, yeah, that was probably the most nerve-wracking part of it, is not knowing where I was going to land safely. If you're going to land, you're going to land, but where? So, it was, as pretty as it was, you had to respect the danger of it. So, not only was I looking for a place to land, I was always monitoring my avionics, my engine, and any little slight noise would, uh-oh, what's going on? But fortunately, none of that ever happened. During this time that I'm in the air, I would set my phone for every 15 minutes just to remind me to do a full scan of all my instruments. When I got into oxygen, I upped that to every 5 minutes. Not only did I want to check the instruments, but I wanted to make sure I was still awake. Because I didn't know, I don't fly high all that often, so wasn't quite sure how much oxygen I needed. But I could tell, without oxygen, I had brain fog after 10.5. So I would just start tweaking it up until I was clear-headed, and I could tell. It was real good. So fortunately, Bill was able to find many stops for me to refill my bottle, which was impressive. Always had the fuel, kept going and going and going. We had Jonathan Fay met me in Washington. Thank you. Washington. He flew 3 hours just to say hello. I was like, that is so cool. People are really getting into this. And when this, and I'm going to go back and forth. I've just got so many things in my head. But when this all started, Laura, my lovely lady, she was like, oh, should I go with you? Or her family has an event going down in Cabo. I was like, it's no big deal. I was like, you're going to be like 2 days, you're going to get bored. And so she went to Cabo. And then I'm doing all this, she's just like, I should have gone. This is growing. This is turning into something. I was like, is it? Because I'm just flying. I don't know what's going on. So she's like, yeah, this is really growing. But she wasn't able to make it, unfortunately. But she's living vicariously through videos and whatnot that we do. So yeah, we're traveling across this wonderful country. I'm getting to see all these beautiful places from above. Some of them are just hot. Oh my God, hot. I had some of my iPads were sliding down my screens from the glue melting just because the dash was so hot. At one time it was 124 degrees in the cabin. I was like, I gotta leave this area. This is bad. But it was only a couple areas that did that to me. Let's see, going through the middle of the country, the Ozarks. If you haven't visited the Ozarks, that's pretty. That's gorgeous. And it's centrally located. So yeah, don't be surprised if you see my address in the Ozarks soon. We got down in that direction, as Bill said. I was supposed to have like a four-hour day that one day, and he's like, take a rest. So that night, Dave and Judy and I, we had a nice dinner, had a few drinks, and the next morning I just nonchalantly got up, had my cup of coffee on the patio, listening to birds, and that's when he called me and ruined my whole day. So he's like, you got to get in the air. I'm like, what? He says, yeah, if you don't get in front of this storm, you're locked down for 3 days. Well, that was truly unacceptable. So I got in and I pushed it through. And what was the state we landed in? Or I landed just before Florida, Georgia? Alabama. So Alabama, I landed, and there was a gentleman, Nick, I believe, right? That was supposed to, he was trying to meet us, meet me there. And I'm like, well, there's nobody here. So I started taking off, and he sent a picture through the gate showing me taxiing away. So he missed out on that. But I did get into Florida. I got ahead of that storm. The next morning, That was a huge cell. So I had to go probably an hour out of my way to get around that. And that was my first real stress of dealing with weather. But it was all VFR on that point, but it was just a long ways out of the way. And at that point, Bill had something to do. He's buying a house. So he got distracted with that. Jan stepped in, and somebody said, hey, we got some fuel out here. So Jan told me about it. I'm like, no, I'm just going to continue straight. And then I got to thinking, you know what, this storm has really worn me out, and I do need fuel. So I did a hard bank to the left, another 40 miles, went and refueled, got a nice break over there, got to look at a gentleman's plane and had lunch and recharged. On that note, what I found my sweet spot was 6 hours. Anything more than 6 hours, I was pushing into my reserve tank, mental tank. The hardest part on the hours wasn't the seat. My plane is comfortable, it really is. But it's the your eyes. Your eyes get tired, they dry out. So I started going, when I stopped at that one location, I got some eye drops, some like liquid tears. So I was doing liquid tears, and then from that I started wearing clear glasses just to stop the breeze from hitting my eyes. And that made it much easier to do 8-hour days. So that worked out really well. So we're going up from Florida up on the East Coast and stuff. And let's see. Well, I'll backtrack to another story here. But going up the East Coast, we landed at one location that was VFR when I took off, with the expectation of VFR when I got there to the next spot. Well, I don't know what happened. The ground fog didn't burn off, but it was 300 foot ceilings. It was low, and you couldn't see through it. And I was looking. I was really wanting to find a place to land because I wanted to keep us on track. But those ceilings, that was total IFR down below me. So I was pretty much VFR solid on top. And I didn't want to go into any tower control airports for the fear that I may not get out with a marginal. So I was like, okay, where can I go? So we ended up going east, probably about an hour out of my way. I landed on marginal VFR and got in there, and they're like, oh, it's going to burn off, you'll be fine, get on up and it'll be clear again when you get there. I was like, no, I'm going to sit this one out for a while. So I sat on the ground, recharged for an hour, let it burn up a little bit, bigger holes, and took off and proceeded. And then it was VFR the rest of the way to our next destination. Going further up, we got into the Washington area, where the next weather cell came, New York, all that. And had to fight through that, but it wasn't raining, it was just big storm cells. So we were still good, still VFR, but I had put all my oxygen away, thinking I'm not going to need it anymore. And I ended up going 13,000 foot over in that area once again. So the oxygen did come back out. So I did that. I did miss the Statue of Liberty. It was just too messy of the airspace, and the clouds were just too big. So I didn't get to see the Statue of Liberty from the air. I've seen it from the ground, so I know it exists. So we didn't get to see that, Wilson and I. And we continued on, shot up through Maine, had a lot of, Bill put me in a lot of small airports too. And I do a lot of testing with my plane just to see what its limits are. And I'm pretty confident I know how my plane flies. He wore my brakes out. There were some areas that I'm just like, I got to go around. I got to come in a different angle, a different steepness. And one of them I went around, and next time I came in, there was a whole group of the EAA chapter. I don't know where they came from, but they were following me on Facebook. So they met me there. I had a great conversation with them, did a little video, and then took off and meandered on out of there. So that was all sweet and done, and it continued more or less on like that. Just meeting people, having lunch, refueling, just good conversation, just meeting new friends and family along the way. Then when we got to, was it Michigan? Oh my God, Michigan, Indiana. I thought that was going to stop us. That was not only big, it was raining. And it also had a lot of airspace that you had to deal with in there. So I refueled and took off, thinking, I'll just go out over the lake. I'll clear it, go over the lake. But when I got there, I wasn't going out over there. Like, that's an ocean. So it's like, nope, we're going back in. So I ended up going between the airspaces on a 3,000 foot shelf. Jan was texting me, he's like, you know, you could make some time if you went on the next shelf up, 2,000 foot. And I'm looking at my AGL, I was like, that's going to put me like 500 foot over the roofs. I'm not doing that. So we stayed at the 3,000 foot, and the whole time it was raining on me, but it was still VFR. And that was, you know, prerequisite because I am a VFR pilot. So this trip, I'm amazed, this challenge, that I didn't come into something that literally would stop me because of IFR traffic or IFR conditions. So we worked through that and did have to do some scud running a little bit, but it was still VFR scud running. And then finally in Illinois, as I'm down low, I'm still seeing, or I should say, I saw some blue. It's the first time I've seen blue in days. So I pitched a prop, I climbed up right through it, got it. I think I was at 10 or 11,000 foot by the time I got up there. And oh, it was so gorgeous to see blue skies again. It's like, okay, it was like the finish line. Everything that's bad is behind me. Everything good's in front of me. We're good to go. So continued on, and Bill's like, you know, you can finish it this day, which was Sunday, I believe. He says, you can finish it. And I wanted to, and I think I was only like an hour and a half away from finishing, but it would have put me in on the ground at night. And that was one of our conditions, is I just don't fly at night. Because, I mean, I'm flying long days. So we continued on, landed that night, and the next morning got up and flew right the next few states. I could have actually landed Wisconsin earlier than I did, but I saved Wisconsin for last because she deserves it. So I landed in all the other states, and then when I came across Wisconsin, the mayor of Viroqua, I hope I said that right, and his fire crew met me out there, gave me a little, I don't know, what do you call it, where they lead you in. And they had the fire truck there because I know they've seen my landings, so they were prepped. And he got in my plane, got some video of that, and we shook hands, and we stopped the clock. And I think the clock was 10 days, 1 hour or something? 35 minutes. The Guinness Book of World Records is 16 days, 12 hours or something, done with 2 pilots in a certified plane. So I'm pretty sure my math says we beat that. So that's all good to go.
So some of you may want to know what the statistics of the trip were. So Dave flew 6,134 nautical miles, over 60 hours and 32 minutes, burning 364 gallons of gas. Now, if you've been by the booth out here at Oshkosh, you'll notice we have 80.3 hours on the sign. A lot of that is ground time. Warming the engine before taking off, taxiing, visiting with people, shaking hands, going to the next port, you know, wash, rinse, repeat is pretty much what it comes down to. So, again, congratulations. 10 days, 1 hour, 35 minutes.
And I literally could not have done it with all the help and support from all the people, the enthusiasts on the ground. So this is a group win. Awesome. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. And you know, obviously Dave did an incredible accomplishment doing that, and you know, for us at Zenith, it's an honor to see what customers, you know, reaching, you know, for a lot of us, just building and flying our airplane, you know, that's a big goal, you know, reaching fulfilling a dream in and of itself. But when you take it beyond that, actually flying, you know, around the country, all lower 48 states, that's an amazing accomplishment. So you inspire us, you inspire me. I really enjoyed following it on Facebook, Flight Aware and all that stuff, and just a great accomplishment, and congratulations for that, Dave. So thank you so much. And you know, like you mentioned, it really takes a team. You know, we were proud to be played a small part of that, but it really takes a team, and I really applaud the Zenith community that reached out and supported Dave along the way, because you know, it like he says, it was a real accomplishment to do that. So again, congratulations for that.
Thank you all.
And so this year, you know, Zenith Aircraft, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. And again, I want to thank all of you so much for making it possible. You know, I was 24 years old when I moved from Canada to Mexico, Missouri. You know, and center of the country, middle of nowhere, and you know, 30 years later, we're still doing it, going strong. So I want to really thank all of you for making that possible. And you know, we look forward to the next 30 years as well. And you know, this year we'll be celebrating, you know, at our annual homecoming event, like William Wynn. You know, try to make it out. We've got a lot of good things planned for that event, and good camaraderie, good flying, and certainly hope many of you can make it out there. It's also another 30th anniversary, and that's Roger's employment with Zenith Aircraft Company. You know, he was our first employee out there. So again, we thank Roger for playing a major part in that. And it's interesting, right? The day before we came out here, Roger went to the license bureau in Mexico, Missouri, and he came home with a license plate that has Roger flying in a Zenith STOL airplane. It's actually Missouri residents can buy the license plate for that. Cliff King with the local EA chapter spearheaded the project along with Don and a number of other folks from the Chillicothe, Missouri EA chapter. And they have, what is it, I'd rather fly or whatever slogan on that, and it's a wonderful thing that you can, anybody in Missouri can now get a license plate with the Zenith aircraft flying, with Roger flying on that airplane. So it's kind of a really neat thing, and it's a pleasant surprise for us to see the 30th anniversary that way. So I'm going to kind of wrap it up. I think we've been going on. Thanks so much for all your patience coming out here, and I want to really thank Joe Scheibinger for putting this event together for us again. Based here in Oshkosh, Joe's also a Zenith builder, of course, and has a wonderful CH-750. Go and look at it. He's got a really neat panel on a CH-750 inside the airplane hangar. It's partially built, not quite finished, but go out there and have a look at it. And I want to thank all of you so much for coming out, supporting us over the years and continuing to support us. I know our lead times, again, are a little bit longer than they used to be, but that's primarily because you guys continue to support us. Okay, before I wrap it up, Charlie Becker is always conveniently late at the event, but please welcome Charlie Becker of EA to say a few words.
Thank you. I want to thank